Today we're learning the negative exponent rule. The negative exponent rule states that a to the power of negative n is equal to 1 over a to the power of n. Here are the examples. Give it a try and play the video whenever you're ready for the solutions. Simplify. Your answer should only contain positive exponents. Number 1. M to the power of negative 4. Using the negative exponent rule, we simply move m to the power of negative 4 below, and that turns to positive exponent. And then numerator should be equal to 1. So number 1 is the same thing as 1 over m to the 4th. Question number 2. 3m to the power of negative 4. Take note that for question number 2, negative 4 is only the exponent for m, not 3m. So we need to move m to the power of negative 4 to denominator, and that becomes now m to the positive 4. This means that the coefficient 3 remains in the numerator. So the answer for number 2 is 3 over m to the 4th. Again, keep the 3 in your numerator and move m to the power of negative 4 to your denominator, and that turns to positive. Question number 3. The quantity a squared b to the 4th times the quantity a to the negative 7 b to the power of negative 6. First thing that we need to do is use the product rule in multiplying a squared and a to the negative 7. So for the variable a, we need to add first the powers 2 and negative 7. For the b, we need to add the powers 4 and negative 6. Simplifying this, we will have a to the power of negative 5, b to the power of negative 2. And if you see negative exponents, that means that's not yet in simplest form. So we need to use the negative exponent rule. To make these negative exponents positive, we simply move them below. A to the power of negative 5 becomes a to the 5th when you move it below. B to the power of negative 2 becomes b squared when you move it below. There's nothing left on your numerator, so we write down 1. The answer is 1 over a to the 5th b squared. Question 4. 7x to the power of negative 3 y to the power of negative 4 to the power of 2. In this problem, the power outside the parentheses is positive. So we need to use the power rule first. We need to use power rule for the coefficient 7, the variable x, and the variable y. So we will have 7 squared, x to the power of negative 3 times 2, and y to the power of negative 4 times 2. 7 squared is 49, and the exponent of x is negative 3 times 2, which is negative 6. For the variable y, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Now let's simplify this by making the exponents positive. Using the negative exponent rule, x to the power of negative 6 needs to move below, and that turns x to the power of 6. Now we need to move y to the power of negative 8 below, and that turns y to the positive 8. What do you think is the numerator? We still have 49, so the 49 remains on top, and the answer for number 4 is 49 over x to the 6 y to the 8th. Question 5. The quantity 7x cubed y to the 4th to the power of negative 2. Unlike with number 4, notice that for number 5, the power outside the parentheses is negative. So this means we need to apply the negative exponent rule first for the entire base 7x cubed y to the 4th. So to make this a positive, we need to move the entire thing below, and that becomes 7x cubed y to the 4th, and that turns to positive 2. This means there's nothing left on top, and we need to write 1. Simplifying the denominator, we have 1 over 7 squared is 49. X cubed square means you multiply 3 times 2, and that becomes x to the 6. Y to the 4th square means you multiply 4 times 2, and that is y to the 8. So the answer for number 5 is 1 over 49 x to the 6 y to the 8. Now it's your turn to try this 3-problem quiz. Give it a try and play the video whenever you're ready for the solutions. Simplify. Your answer should only contain positive exponents. Question 1. 4x to the power of negative 2 y cubed times 4x y to the 0 times 4x to the power of negative 1. Question 1 is multiplying terms, so we need to use the product rule. First, we need to multiply the numerical coefficients. 4 times 4 times 4, and that is 64. Now let's multiply the variable x. So we have negative 2 plus 1 and plus negative 1. So the sum of negative 2, 1, and negative 1 is negative 2. Now let's multiply the variable y's. We have y cubed and we have y to the 0. Adding the powers, we will have 3. We are not allowed to have negative exponents, so we need to simplify this using the negative exponent rule. Notice here that the variable x has an exponent of negative 2. And we need to move it down to make it positive. 64 and y cubed are positive already, so that stays in your numerator. So the answer is 64 y cubed over x squared. Question number 2. The quantity for a to the 4th, b to the 4th to the power of negative 2. Problem number 2 has a negative 2 exponent outside the parentheses. So we need to use the negative exponent rule. We need to move the entire term below. And that becomes now 4a to the 4th, b to the 4th, and that turns to positive 2 exponent. There's nothing left on top, so we need to write down 1 over the denominator. Now let's simplify the denominator using power rule. The 1 on top remains the same. And now we need to do 4 to the 2nd power, which is 4 times 4, so you have 16. Simplify a to the 4th square, that means you multiply 4 times 2, and that's 8. b to the 4th square, you also multiply 4 times 2, and that is b to the 8. So the answer for number 2 is 1 over 16 a to the 8, b to the 8. Question number 3. 24 h to the 4th, j to the 0, k to the power of negative 1, all over 4j to the power of negative 2. In simplifying problem number 3, we need to use quotient rule. The first thing that we need to do here is divide the coefficients. 24 divided by 4, and that is 6. Now let's simplify the variables. For the variable h, we only have in the numerator, and that is 4th power. Now for the j, we need to subtract the powers 0 and negative 2. 0 minus negative 2 is the same thing as 0 plus 2, so that is now the same thing as j squared. And k is alone, and we have k to the power of negative 1. We need to simplify this further because we have a negative exponent. So we need to use the negative exponent rule. We need to simplify k to the power of negative 1, and to make that positive, we need to move it down. K to the first is the same thing as k. And the rest have positive exponent, so we will leave them on top. So we have 6h to the 4th, j squared, all over k as the final answer for question number 3. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing to my channel at Celzo Academy.